It's 32 years since an Aston Villa player produced one of the all-time individual performances at a World Cup finals. Now, in 1994, England didn't qualify for the World Cup, and it was the first major tournament I was able to watch, really. I was a bit too young for Italia 90. And like a lot of kids at that time, especially Villa fans, due to the fact that my granddad was Irish and born in Dublin, I was like, well, I'm Irish too. But it was also down to the fact that nearly half of the Irish team were Villa players that had just won the Coca-Cola Cup. Andy Townsend, Steve Staunton, Ray Houghton, and of course, Paul McGrath. Now, when I was a kid, people didn't rant and rave about Paul McGrath, like, oh, he's the best player, he's amazing. People spoke about Paul McGrath in hushed tones, quietly, in reverie, as if he was some kind of spirit that had somehow found his way onto the pitch at Villa Park. Now, Paul McGrath, it's fair to say, had a tough upbringing. He spent a lot of time in care, in children's homes, being raised by nuns, after his mum, for many reasons, felt compelled to give him up as a baby. And as a result, Paul had always suffered with mental health issues. But for him, like so many people, sport and football was his escape. And he would eventually find his way to Manchester United. Now, Paul loved playing football, but he said he hated all the other parts of it. Events, meeting people, parties. And so Paul started drinking. Drink became a way to boost his self-esteem, to help him socialise, and it became a crutch for him, especially at a club like Manchester United where there was a huge drinking culture at the time, probably at all clubs to be honest. And even though Paul was an immensely talented defender, when Alex Ferguson came in, he saw Paul as part of the problem. He wanted to clean up the drinking culture at Manchester United. And on top of that, Paul's knees were in a bad state, so he was gently ushered out the door. Now, this led to Aston Villa physio Jim Walker getting a phone call from then manager Graham Taylor. And Graham Taylor said, Jim, Paul McGrath's just failed his medical at Tottenham Hotspur. Make sure he doesn't fail it here. And so Paul McGrath would sign for Aston Villa. And Jim Walker would become his physio, his personal doctor, his minder, his friend, a father figure, and their relationship would last the rest of their lives, really. Now, Graham Taylor worked out how to get the best out of Paul McGrath. His injuries were bad, his off-field issues were a problem, but Graham Taylor worked out that as long as you could get Paul on the pitch on a Saturday, he would be the best player. Taylor moved on, and Villa went through Joseph Fenglos before Ron Atkinson took over, and Ron had a similar attitude to Paul. His knees were basically gone. He was dealing with depression and alcoholism. But as long as he could get on that pitch on a Saturday at 3 p.m, he'd be man of the match. In fact, Paul, in the inaugural Premier League season, won PFA Player of the Year as a centre-back. Now, how does a centre-back with depression, alcoholism, no knees, win PFA Player of the Year? Well, the truth is, Paul McGrath was a genius. They say if you have to make a tackle as a defender, then you've made a mistake. And Paul McGrath didn't have to make many last-ditch tackles. Why? Paul McGrath could see 5 seconds into the future. He knew exactly where to stand. He knew what a player was about to do before they'd even worked out they were going to do it. His reading of the game was second to none. Now, this brings us to the first game for the Republic of Ireland, as they were then called, at World Cup 1994 in the USA. Now, they would come up against Italy and their star striker, Roberto Baggio. Now, at around 20 minutes, the ball would bobble along the edge of the Italian box, and Ray Houghton would produce an incredible lobbed shot over the Italian goalkeeper, Gianluca Pagliuca. We'll talk about him another time. Houghton would do this forward gambol and pop up as if to say, I've just scored in the World Cup finals. The problem now was Ireland had to hang on for 70 minutes, and that's where Paul McGrath came in. Now, if you listen to the commentary of that match, it goes something like this. McGrath again, cleared by McGrath, and again McGrath. Paul McGrath produced a defensive masterclass against Italy, the inventors of the defensive masterclass. Now, I haven't heard the Italian commentary, but I'm pretty sure it goes along the lines of, who the hell is this guy, and why is he defending like an Italian? McGrath headed everything, he cleared everything, he made every tackle, he blocked every shot. It was an immense performance from an immense defender. Added to the fact that on that day, he had a bad shoulder as well. Ireland would hold on to produce one of the all-time upsets at the World Cup finals. Roberto Baggio would go on to be player of the tournament and take Italy to within a whisker of winning the World Cup. But that day against Paul McGrath, he didn't get a kick. Now, in many people's minds, that game cemented Paul McGrath as the greatest Irish player of all time. It's common consensus amongst Villa fans that he's probably the greatest Villa player of all time. And he's so beloved because of who he is, because of his talent, because of the battles he's had in his life, and because of the way he holds himself in such a shy, self-deprecating and down-to-earth manner. And at Villa Park, he's not known as Paul McGrath. He's simply known as God. And his name is sung before every match on the Holt End. Do you remember that game against Italy? Do you, like me, regularly go on YouTube to watch the highlights of that match and revel in the genius that was Paul McGrath? Oh, and if you like this kind of thing, you could subscribe to my channel if you want. I'm Sam, True Adventures. I do regular Villa chat. All right, up the Villa.